Hi, I wanted to make this video because I've been thinking, and this time I've been thinking about stress in retirement. And the reason I've been thinking about stress in retirement is because I've been planning ahead for my fantastic retirement, and I've been looking forward to a time when there'll hopefully be less stress in my life, and I assumed that that would be a good thing. However, I was reading the other day about how stress can actually be good for you, especially in retirement. So that left me feeling a bit confused. Should I be trying to remove stress from my life? Or should I be looking for ways to keep some stress in my life when I'm no longer going to work? Maybe I've been too quick to assume that stress is a bad thing. But I know I've read that stress can have a negative impact on health. So, what's the truth? Is stress good or bad? Are there different types of stress? And if there are, how can I tell the difference? And would my body know the difference between good stress and bad stress? So, the thing that got me interested was reading that removing stress from your life, especially when you're retired, can come with some risks that you may not have anticipated, because stress can be the thing that's been keeping you motivated and energized and resilient. So you could find that without stress, you could also end up without motivation and energy, and with less resilience to cope with challenges in the future. And I definitely don't like the sound of that. So, how do I make sure that I'm aiming for good stress that will help me in the future and not bad stress that might damage me? So, I thought it might be useful to think about what are the stresses that I thought I was looking forward to leaving behind, and to think about whether they have been giving me energy and motivation and resilience. So, I'm looking forward to not having to stick to a schedule that maybe doesn't fit with how I prefer to spend my time. I'm looking forward to not having to spend time doing things that I don't really want to do. I'm looking forward to not having more to do than I've got time for. And I'm looking forward to not having to pretend that I like things that I don't. So those are the kind of stresses at work that I thought would be good to get rid of. So was I wrong about that? It may be the stress of having to stick to a schedule does give me a structure to my life and stops me from being lazy and feeling bad about wasting time. And maybe having to spend time doing things that I don't want to does build my resilience, because sometimes life isn't all about fun. And maybe having to fit in too much work is sometimes motivating and energizing because it forces me to be creative and efficient. And maybe having to pretend I like things that I don't might help with resilience too. I have to say I'm not very convinced about some of those things. I'm hoping that retirement actually is going to be all about fun. So I don't want to keep the stress of having to do things that I don't want to, or pretending to like things that I don't. But I do want to be able to keep a bit of structure in my life when I'm retired. And I would quite like to still be able to fit in plenty of things. But I don't really see that being something that would bring stress in the same way that it might do as part of a job. So I think I do stand by my original thoughts that I'll be glad to remove some of those stresses from my life when the time comes. So are there other stresses that I can introduce that will bring those benefits that I don't want to lose, but not be things that I don't actually want to do? So maybe if I try and think of some examples of things that have brought me stress in my life but aren't connected to work. So I definitely felt stress about the responsibilities of having children. And I think overall that stress has been a good thing because it's been really rewarding and has taught me a lot about my values in life. But I don't want to have any more of those when I'm retired. And it was stressful to move house, but it was exciting and it forced me to be organised and proactive. I wouldn't mind doing that again in retirement and maybe more than once. It was stressful to organise a big party, but it was fun to have the party. I wouldn't mind doing that again when I'm retired, either for myself or for someone else. And it's stressful to go on holidays and trips away, but it's great to have those experiences and the memories to treasure afterwards. And I hope to do plenty of that when I'm retired. And I like the idea of having more time to put into the planning stages and the build up to the trip, even though I still think I'll find it a bit stressful. So will those types of things bring the benefits of stress without risking too many of the negative aspects? I mean, we've all heard that stress can be bad for your blood pressure, for your heart, and for your mental health. So will my body know the difference, that those are stresses I want in my life, so I don't want them to cause me harm? Well, the article that I was reading talked about the difference between eustress and distress. So I'd heard of distress, but not eustress, which is eustress. So eustress is considered to be a good thing. And things that fall into that category would be exciting, motivating, manageable and short term. So it's quite different from distress, which is generally overwhelming, draining, lasts longer and causes anxiety. So when it's described like that, I think I can understand the difference between the type of stress that can be good and the type that can be bad. They all have an impact on your blood pressure, your heart, and your mental health, but with eustress, the impact is over much more quickly and your body has a chance to recover. Plus, some of the emotions will be positive and you're likely to build self-esteem and feel good afterwards. And things that cause distress tend to last longer and are more draining and don't bring those positive emotions. So it's best to try and avoid those or reach out for help and support if they're going on for a long time and bringing you down. And you also can celebrate the fact that you might be able to leave some of those types of stresses behind when you retire, because they're not really bringing you anything good. So I was interested to read that there's also another type of positive stress called hormesis, which apparently also can provide energy, motivation and resilience, but this one is more connected to body rather than mind. So things like taking a cold shower or a sauna, having a high intensity workout, or even fasting. So they're all thought to be stresses that are good for your health rather than bad, if used in small doses so that you can have a chance to recover. So I think the answer is to try and let go of anything that's causing you distress, but be open and maybe even proactive about including the positive stresses of eustress and hormesis. So the body and mind do need some challenges to be able to perform at their best and to be resilient into the future. And if you remove all of those challenges, then the mind and body are likely to become less able over time. So although we might think we deserve a rest when we're retired, that rest could come at a cost if we're not careful. Staying within your comfort zone might feel safe and calm, but it doesn't tend to be energising or motivating, and it doesn't build resilience for the future. So it's definitely making sense to me that it's probably important to keep those good stresses in your life if you want to keep hold of those skills as you get older. So I think I will have to keep pushing myself outside of my comfort zone and into some stress, even when I'm retired, if I want to still have energy and motivation and resilience. And I don't think people necessarily have to want those things in their retirement, but I think it's important to be aware of the possible impact of choosing to rest rather than to keep challenging yourself. So luckily, I think some of the plans that I've already decided on are likely to cause me some stress or some eustress. So hopefully I'm halfway there already. And I can definitely see some scope for introducing some of those hormesis ideas like cold showers or saunas or fasting to make sure that I'm bringing those good stresses to my body as well as my mind. I'll just have to make sure that I'm not tempted to take the easy option and back out of doing the things that might cause me some stress. Because it's not so easy to do that when you're at work and you don't have as much choice. But I can imagine that it would be more tempting when you're retired and more in charge of your own destiny. I don't want my energy and motivation and resilience to decline when I'm retired. So I really do see the importance of taking this seriously. And I think that's going to help me to keep pushing myself and not taking the easy option. So, what am I taking away from all this, and have I changed my mind about looking forward to having less stress in my life when I'm retired? Well, I don't think I've changed my mind about looking forward to having less stress in my life when I'm retired, because I'm looking forward to having more control. Some of the stresses of work are closer to distress than eustress, so I don't think I need to be too worried about letting those go. I do agree with the idea of choosing to keep some good stresses in my life to help me keep hold of my energy and motivation and resilience, and I feel clearer about what those good stresses might look like in reality. So to me, one of the most important things about my retirement planning is trying to think through what's important to me in life so that I can make the right decisions and put the right structure in place to try and build the kind of future that I want for myself. So I think the time I've spent on this subject has been really helpful. And if you've got any examples of how bringing positive stresses into your life has helped you, I'd love to hear them if you'd like to leave a comment. Personally, I've always been a fan of roller coasters, so I hope they count because I'd quite like to keep those in my life as I get older. I definitely do get a bit stressed before I get on a roller coaster, but I feel pleased with myself afterwards and full of energy, and I guess glad to still be alive. So I hope you've taken something useful from this video, but I think that's all for this time. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!